Hi everybody and welcome to DandyChat with your friend Fortune Boy from the DandyLions, and with me I have Ross Fielding. Say hello, Ross.
Hello, and it literally sounded like you said DANDYCHAT.
Okay, so apparently I said DandyChat rather than DandyChat. I just got to get my ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch out of the way. Maybe that should be like the intro music or something, like dandy ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-chats, just to make sure we get it correct. What do you reckon?
Yes, we're literally talking for an hour, and it could be DANDYCHAT because you might think we're talking shit the entire time.
That's the tagline then, is it? Like DandyChat, where we dribble out shit from our mouths for a whole hour into your ear holes. So Ross, explain why we're actually doing a podcast right now.
Basically, I've just been really into podcasts at the moment, and all I want to do is to see if I can try and start my own. And what a better platform to do it than on the Dandelion forum. We have a list of things that we might talk about, we may not talk about. Who knows, you might not get to hear them. Today we did some voiceover work for the, am I allowed to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For the visual novel that will give you a deeper understanding of how the band came to be.
Yes, Ross is talking about the DandyLions visual novel, which we're working on. And like he said, we're basically putting together a visual novel story, which you can download on your iPhones, your Android tablets, whatever you got. And it will also be available for PC. It's been fun working on that. How did you enjoy working on that, Ross?
I did. Apparently I can't read some words because apparently there's a new term in terms of music. It's a chart stopper. So if you know any chart stoppers, let me know.
That's right. I asked Ross to say the word chart topping, and he couldn't say it. Eventually he did get it right though, but he just couldn't stop saying chart stoppers. Chart stoppers, which, as far as I know, no artist has ever managed to stop the charts ever, but Ross is determined to make that a thing. But yeah, so that's what we're working on, and yeah, it's been fun. Also, I can't wait to get a second microphone because I can instantly see why we need to have a second microphone, because every time we want to talk, we have to pause for a moment.
Yes.
And it kind of stunts the natural conversation.
Yeah.
So we'll get that sorted for the next podcast. Let's have a look at the topics of discussion that we're going to talk about. Well, we've already talked about the DandyLions visual novel. Japanese. I have an avid interest in Japanese culture, and at the moment I'm trying my best to learn Japanese. I'm using an app called Mondly. There's plenty of language learning apps, isn't there?
If you want to learn a language, a good app to use is Duolingo. I've been using that quite a bit myself. German, I've been learning. Only because my granddad's German. He's dead now, though.
What? So you're trying to learn how to talk to your dead granddad? Is that like what? Is that the goal?
Yeah. Basically, the only person in our family that can speak German he's not even related. He's married into the family.
He's not even in your family, like
Yeah.
Okay, he's not
so
related.
He can speak about 8 languages.
He's dead though now.
But my granddad's dead. But I thought at least someone from his bloodline should be able to speak the language.
Okay.
And I'm a very bad student, so I end up just learning a little bit. So I can say, ich sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Oh, okay.
Mein Großvater war Deutsch.
You speak German?
Yeah.
Your grandfather is German?
Yeah. Ich bin Englisch und ich sprechen Sie Deutsch.
You are English and you sprechen Sie Deutsch.
And I probably have a really weird accent on it. But yeah, it's not normally a good thing to mention to people that you are part German and that your granddad was German, because he fought in the World War II.
Okay.
But on the wrong side.
Oh, right, okay. By the wrong side, you mean the Germans?
Yeah.
All right.
And he literally lied about his age, so he didn't fight the Russians. Because I think he was 16, he lied about his age, and he was 17, so he could fight the Americans and the British, because they were actually going to take prisoners. Whereas the Russians were so pissed off because they'd lost so many people when the Germans tried to invade Russia. Now they were literally killing everyone on sight. They were taking no prisoners. And he knew about this. So he decided to lie by his age, join the side that's fighting the Americans and the British, became a paratrooper, and then got captured because he went the wrong way.
Oh.
And that's how he ended up in the United Kingdom.
Okay, so what we've ascertained now is that your your grandfather like fought for the Nazis.
Well, yeah, technically he fought for the Nazis, but he was in the German army, but wasn't a Nazi.
Oh, right, so he was in the German army, not a Nazi.
Yeah.
Fought for them though.
Yeah.
And then got caught as a paratrooper.
Going the wrong way.
And then he got what? Did he get deported or something?
Well, obviously, he was then moved as a prisoner of war to the United Kingdom, escaped from prison 3 times, and went back the final time because he was cold and hungry.
Okay, well that's an interesting story. Like that's how he got what? So he went back. Did he go back to Germany? Is that what you're saying?
He couldn't go back to Germany because he was born in what was called East Prussia, which is now part of Poland. And then after the World War II, that became part of Poland, but then was also behind the Iron Curtain or within the Soviet Union territory. So he couldn't go back to where he was born or where he lived because he was no longer part of Germany.
Okay, so by the end of the war, I guess he couldn't go back because it was no longer part of where he lived.
No longer accessible to anyone that outside the Soviet Union, or the fact that it was no longer part of Germany. So all his family were disconnected from him. He couldn't return, even to West Germany. For some reason, he couldn't return. But again, at that point, it was divided between the Americans, the British, and the French. So in the end, he just became a resident of the United Kingdom, and then met my gran on a farm.
Okay, well, I'm really glad that he did. I'm really glad that he did, because then you wouldn't be here if that didn't happen.
My controversial says, I say, if Hitler didn't do what he did, I wouldn't be born.
Thank you, Hitler, for Ross Fielding. That's amazing. I never thought I'd say thank you, Hitler, for anything, but if it wasn't for Hitler, there would be no Ross Fielding. That's what.
Exactly. Who would be narrating the novel now?
Well, it wouldn't be someone. I wish I'd known before. No, I would not. I'm not going to hold that against you, Ross.
Some kind of Nazi propaganda going on in this visual novel.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we find out there's a swastika like at chapter 6 or something, and you've just like slipped that in, then yeah, I think then I will have something to say about that. I'm definitely going to do some editing. Some close scrutinization of the software that we release later on, just to make sure that you haven't infected it with Nazi programming. But yeah, I mean that's an interesting story. I've just learned a lot about your granddad, Ross, and I'm glad that. I mean, all we need now is to make a séance, and you can use what you've learned on Duolingo to talk to your dead Nazi granddad. I know you've already said that he's not a Nazi. I never thought that we'd be talking about Hitler on our first ever Dandy Chat.
Yes.
But
the links between learning Japanese and learning about the swastika is quite synonymous.
Indeed, it is. Yeah. So Japanese. I mean, I'm using Mondly. Ross recommends Duolingo. I'll have a look at that. I'll have a look at that app. It's been interesting learning how to write and speak a different language. It's quite difficult unless you properly immerse yourself in it and continually repeat everything.
Can you actually have a conversation at the moment? Can you say an actual sentence in Japanese?
I could. Yeah, I'll give it a shot for you. Ohayo gozaimasu. That means good morning. Watashi no name wa Daryl desu. Oyasumi nasai. I just said, good morning, my name is Daryl, good night.
Isn't Shigatsu April?
Shigatsu, I mean, it might be. I don't know. We can check that out. Do you want to check that out on Google?
Yeah, I'm going to get Google.
What, is Shigatsu April?
Came up with something called You're a Lie. Came up with something called Your Lie in April.
Your lie in April. Yeah. Okay. That doesn't clarify much, but it definitely has April in it.
So it comes up with Your Lie in April, a manga series known in Japanese as Shigatsu Wakimi no Uso.
Okay, so I think Shigatsu must mean April, because you just said it, and that's the name of the anime. So the other stuff must mean your lie and then Shigatsu is April. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to forget that Shigatsu is April after all this, and especially if it's named after it. There's an anime named after it. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. It's I like learning Japanese. I've also been playing a video game called Yakuza 0, which is a Japanese video game by Sega, and it basically follows the story of a guy called Kiryu, who is a Yakuza legend. And I'm not a video games reviewer. I'm not going to go into it too much. But what I want to do is show Ross what the game looks like on YouTube. And then I'm going to get his point on it. Okay, so I just showed Ross the trailer to Yakuza 0. Have you got any questions about Yakuza?
It just looks like a very Japanese version of Saints Row.
That's quite an astute evaluation of the trailer and what it basically. I know what you're saying. It's got it does have crazy ass combat and all those crazy animations and moves that you'd find in Saints Row. I can see that, and I would agree with you on that. And it is very similar. It's an open world experience. So yeah, you're kind of right on with that. I would say that the story is less comedic. There are crazy ass stories in there. One of the side quests which I did involves having to buy a porno mag for a 6-year-old or something like that. It's crazy how the boundaries and stuff like that. You got the main character who's all justice and stuff like that, and I can't let civilians get beaten up by bullies and stuff like that. But he will then go out of his way to buy a porno mag for a minor. And not a miner as in a coal miner, like a minor as in a child. So it has its comedy moments, but the main story is it's like a kind of cable TV show like Breaking Bad or whatever. It has twists, turns, it has drama and tragedy and stuff like that. I thought it was very well written, and it got you invested in the characters. Personally, I got tired of the story by the end of it, though. I thought that it dragged on just that little bit too long. It just, there wasn't enough fresh material by the end of the game. So that's my critique of the story. But it was really well handled, and pretty much every action scene in the game is heightened by the emotional moods that the story and its cutscenes put you in. So when you actually have an epic boss fight or whatever, it's usually preceded by just an amazing dramatic encounter between you and the person that you have to fight. So you get really pumped because it feels like the stakes are massive, and the stakes are really high. So I do commend the game for that. And there's loads of mini games as well, as you saw in the trailer. But I got addicted to one of the mini games, and I wish I didn't, because it was. I think video games can be too addictive and take up most of your time, and so yeah. I mean,
if there was ever a game that I was ever addicted to, it's a Total War game, and that is Rome Total War. Rome 2 came out in 2015. I can't believe it's almost been 5 years since it came out. It'll be 5 years, not Monday, but the following Monday on the 3rd of September. And that game was absolutely broken when it came out. However, I did play 200 hours of the game before I went, fuck, this game is broken. My fucking ship is going through the fucking territory. I was playing a battle, and it's on a coastal. It's new features where you can bring ships and armies onto the same battle. And the ship was supposed to dock on land, and the men were supposed to jump out. And I just remember looking at the map. I was like, where the fuck is my ship gone? I looked in the town, and there was this mast just making its way through the map. Because instead of going round the landmass, it went through the town to get to the waypoint that it was going to then let the men off. So it was about 200 hours of gameplay. I was like, right, this game is actually broken. and then it took them 9 months to fix. However, it is one of my favourite games because it's pretty good if I can spend 200 hours playing a broken game. And at this point, I'm going to reach out to anyone who is a Total War player because no one is out there to play co-op campaign, and it's the one thing that I really want to do. So if anyone plays Total War, please get in touch.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to put... maybe we'll put a link in the description. I've always wanted to say that. We'll put links in the description so you can then get in touch with Ross. I imagine you'll put your Steam ID on there or something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I could do. Or if you want to find me on Facebook, my name is Ross Fielding. I have a very sexy picture of me next to a river and a sailing boat. So if you find me on there, communicate with me and we'll play Total War until our heart's content.
So we'll get that sorted for you, and hopefully, maybe Ross will get a game partner for Total War. Talking about getting partners, that was one of the topics we've got on here is dating apps. Dating apps. So you were telling me earlier about OkCupid, is that right?
Yes. For years I've been trying to use dating apps because I'm clearly the stud muffin that I am. The most success that I ever got from a dating app was on Tinder. But the only person that matched with me was some dominatrix from Loughborough. And she wanted me to do the most bizarre things. Mostly pay for some random shit. But I was not going to. Thus, that went no further.
So you're saying that this dominatrix was asking you to pay for services? Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
Not sexual services, but just buy her stuff. Just random, because she was a dominatrix. She wanted to dominate me.
Okay, so and by dominate you, that it was not just sexually in any way, it was dominate your wallet.
Yeah, dominate my wallet. But speaking of dominatrix and dominator, I won't name the person who I went with, but as a moral support, I went with someone to a BDSM meeting because they were into it at the time, but they didn't want to go by themselves. So I ended up going to this BDSM meeting in the Old Salutation, surrounded by the most random people I've ever met.
The Old Salutation is a pub in Nottingham, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like in the old castle. It's not far from Nottingham Castle. But yeah, we went to an old BDSM, and I just remember people coming up to me trying to engage me in conversation about the topic, and there was a lot of people there that talking in the dialogue of his dom, her sub, and some of the conversations they were having was quite interesting. But every time someone approached me, I did like his moral support because he was the only reason he actually went to the meeting was because he wanted fulfill his curiosity. Needless to say, it was enough to put him off as well.
So he went there and he asked you to go. Your friend asked you to come along with him because I guess he just wanted some support in what is potentially a scary situation, isn't it? The BDSM is quite a. If you're not involved in the culture and you're looking at it from the outside point of view, you might find it quite intimidating. So you're there helping your friend out, and you're getting questions by people in the culture, or you're getting chatted up by people in the culture, and you're like, I don't care. I'm not here for this. And you're hearing subs and doms and everything. And
literally, a guy walked in. He'd only been there for like 2 minutes, and he was already showing a picture of his knob to everyone.
Okay, what? So 2 minutes, and he's already dick picking everyone.
Yeah.
Was it an actual? Was it an actual picture, or was it on his phone? Or
oh no, it was a picture on his phone. Thankfully, the phone was never pointed in my direction, so I never actually saw it.
You never saw the penis, but I'm firstly, I don't know how long ago this was, but I think it would be really funny if the guy just had a Polaroid of his knob.
Just
like waving it around. Like, here's my knob. It's too easy now, isn't it, to take a picture of your genitals and then show it to people or have it stolen now, isn't it? But yeah, so that was what was going on at this meeting. Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and then we went to an after party of sorts to Pit and Pendulum, and there was a guy that worked in the building across from where we were studying, and I remember him having a conversation with me and a friend, And it was like, because obviously I was explaining to him that I was here as moral support and I wasn't actually interested in what was going on here. And he was like, wow, that must really test your friendship. I was like, no, not really. Because that person had done some crazy shit in the past. So that was different. That was a different time in my life.
Okay, you were approached by a BDSM dominatrix on Tinder, and that's kind of reminded you of the actual real life experience of meeting people in BDSM, who I imagine were actually really nice people and very enthusiastic about the scene, but it wasn't your thing. And you were talking about OkCupid. Have you been approached by any more dominatrix on there?
No, I finally had a good response on OkCupid. For ages I'm either paid for Match.com, don't know why I've paid for that, but I've been on there for like 6 months, not a single bite. One person talked to me about, actually spoke to me, but I told her I was playing the keyboard. She thought that was great, and I thought, okay, this conversation's going all right, and then didn't hear a word from her ever again. That was really bizarre. But I'm actually started using OkCupid, which is like a combination of a free and to pay for dating app. And it's kind of like Tinder. You can swipe left and right, but you can also message them directly. The only thing you're paying for is to see who has actually liked you. So if you like someone, unless you're paying for it, you won't know who's actually liked you. But for free, you can just message them directly, and it's just potluck if someone responds to you.
Okay, so you've tried a paid service like Match.com and didn't get anything. Like, but but you've tried Match. You tried OkCupid, and I guess there are some paid functions on there. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? But you can message people.
Yeah, you can message them for free. And I don't know what the paid features are, but I just know you have to pay to see who's actually liked you. If you like someone and they like you back, then it automatically tells you anyway. But it seems like there's a lot more normal people on there, whereas Tinder is for the hookups and wham bam thank you mams. Whereas OkCupid seems to be more legitimate for people that are either looking for wham bam thank you ma'am or looking for a bit more serious or casual but not just hookups, which I have recently come to discover.
Okay, well that's really helpful. I guess if anyone's listening to this and they are actually looking for a free cost way of looking for love in the modern world.
Looking for love on the cheap.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I personally find it quite offensive that these apps and stuff, if they do charge you, like for what, I mean, obviously any service probably has upkeep requirements or, financial, actual costs to keep the service up, server costs, probably. I don't know. I'm probably, don't know what I'm talking about here. But there are a lot of dating websites which are happy to take your money but not get you any results in terms of like even getting anyone close to compatible with you. But thanks for telling me, because I will definitely try out OkCupid. This is not an advertisement, by the way. But like when anyone tells me about Tinder, I've got that kind of preconception about it, that it's just purely for the wham bams, as you say, the wham bam thank you ma'am, on to the next, swipe right. Whereas like I'm sure I'm one, I think everyone might be looking for actual fidelity in relationships. I don't think I'm alone in saying that, but like I would rather, if you believe from what you're telling me that this particular dating app seems to be more like focused on actual relationships, then hell, I'll give it a try. And so I'm going to check that out. That's really cool. So yeah, that's the dating apps that we're going to talk about. Vegetarianism is next on the list, because as far as I know, you met a vegetarian on OkCupid. Are you okay to talk about? Sorry, a vegan. Yeah. You don't have to talk about this person in in detail, but you can talk. Let's use it as a link, shall we?
First thing I want to say about it is I'm going to do a bit of a plug here because I work at Kelly Services, and we're currently raising money for child cerebral palsy. We've got a target of £500 to raise for a special action-free wheelchair. We have a page on justgiving.com, and if you fancy, as the tagline says in the advert or the fundraiser, make a difference to a child's life, then you can make your way to that and donate as much as you can. And any donations that you do, or if you could share it, if you don't donate, then that'll be greatly appreciated. And what relates to vegetarianism at the moment is I'm going to be doing a whole month being a vegetarian. And for those who know me, I am a massive meat eater, massive consumer of bacon, sausage, burgers. I'm going to miss my bacon sandwich on a Monday morning before payroll. But I'm going to give vegetarianism a go. It is something that I have thought about a fair bit over the past year. More of a animal welfare kind of thing. But yeah, it has kind of recently been a bit more pushed because as a part of meeting someone on OkCupid who is vegan, I probably couldn't push myself at the moment to become a vegan. However, I think a stepping stone into possibly being a vegetarian might be a direction I could go in the more short term. And this raising money for charity has given me an opportunity to maybe try that out for a month this year to see whether it's something that I could do, if I could find things I would actually eat on a regular basis and that I could find as a substitute for what I currently eat, which hasn't really done well for my figure, as I like to compare myself to a toad statue on the end of your table. All I'm missing is a flap cap and a cigar.
Ross has clearly some body confidence issues. There's a picture of Ross in the visual novel, and he was like, "Oh, I look terrible." He looks fine. He's a very dandy kind of guy. He looks great. When I first heard that he was going to do the vegetarian 30-day thing for charity, I'm a vegan, so I was quite happy to hear this. And also, I know how much of a challenge it is to actually trade in your meats for your non-meat foods. So I know it's going to be a challenge. It's very worthwhile, I imagine. I'm going to put some money into this charity thing. I guess we'll put another link in the description.
Yeah, baby.
And we'll get that sorted. Yeah, I know what you're saying, dude. Best of luck with this, and I'm sure on the future versions of the podcast, you can let us know how it's going. When are you starting this?
This is going to be next Saturday, so the 1st of September is next Saturday, so that was when I'll be starting the vegetarianism. So as you could probably imagine, I'll probably be scoffing myself with as many bacon butties before that day.
That's the thing. We were discussing this earlier, and even though I'm vegan, I cannot argue with how tasty these meats are, with the fat and salt content. You can't beat that flavour. And we were talking about how, synthetic meats are getting cheaper to produce. There's lots of alternatives like corn burgers. There's the Moving Mountains B12 burger, which has been made, which I really like the idea of. It will be a lot easier for people to transition once, not only the civilians, who are your consumers who, probably don't want to give up meat. It will be easier once we've got that sorted, but also for the actual businesses like farmers and stuff like that. Once it gets to the point where it's cheaper and just as tasty, then there'll be no real argument against synthetic or meat alternatives. But yeah, I'm just waiting for that. You still cannot deny how tasty these products are. So I'm really, I'm waiting for that day when we get it right. There's still some really tasty vegetarian and vegan options already, though. But yeah, fingers crossed we nail the synthetic meats. Yeah, so best of luck with that, dude, and we'll get some updates as the month goes on, I'm sure, in September.
That's the thing. I think I need to set up something that where I can track the progress and people can see the progress. So it does look like I'm actually doing this. Otherwise, people are thinking, if we're going to sponsor him, how are we going to know that he's actually kept to this vegetarian diet, to this lifestyle for an entire month?
Well, you usually always post stuff on Instagram, don't you? Like your foods. Like if you ever have anything food related, you do Instagram. Why don't you put every day, post your pictures of your meals, and we can do some recaps. We're working on the visual novel every week, so why don't we do that for the podcasts as well?
Yeah, we could do. We could talk, have a catch up on how my vegetarianism is going. If there's anyone out there that has an idea, that can leave in the comment section. Any ideas on what would be the best way to that could present and track this vegetarian? I don't know how you would do it, but if anyone's got any ideas, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, we need to hold Ross accountable for his vegetarianism. So, yeah, if you've got any ideas, if you hear this and you've got any ideas of how to account for any kind of daily vegetarianism, just leave a comment like Ross said. All right. So we talked about Total War, and we've pretty much gone through every topic here. We've got two more topics. I watched a film recently called Loving Vincent, which is you can watch it on Netflix. I thought it was a beautiful film. It's about Vincent van Gogh a year after he was murdered. He wasn't murdered, he committed suicide, but there's He did, and that they go into that into the movie. But it's about, there's a kind of conspiracy as to whether he was shot and murdered or whether he actually killed himself, and that's the crux of the story. But one of the real important meat of why you'd want to watch Loving Vincent is because every single frame is hand painted in the style of Vincent van Gogh. So it's like you're watching a Vincent van Gogh movie. It's amazing to watch. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Have you seen the trailer for it, Ross? Or
no, I don't. I haven't really watched much TV at the moment. I'm kind of just waiting for Game of Thrones to come back on. The last time I had Netflix, I thought it was pretty bad, but that was only because I had the UK version. And the UK version is nothing in comparison to the American one. And I think at the point I was a bit too lazy to try and figure out how you change the I forget what it's called on the internet, but so it recognises the region as the United States, and that's how you end up getting with a more of a catalogue of things that you can watch.
Yeah, that's the VPN, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, VPN. So literally, I'm pretty bad. All I do at the moment is watch YouTube, watch podcasts, documentaries on YouTube. YouTube is my TV channel.
Sure, I mean it's really good for watching anything really. I think you can watch this film on YouTube as well. I think it costs like $3.50 or something like that. I watched it on Netflix, but I'm going to show you the trailer now, and I want to get your feedback on it. I want to see if it's something that you would enjoy. So we just watched the trailer for Loving Vincent, and first of all, I'm just going to say that it still looked beautiful, but the YouTube compression or something made certain scenes look a little bit worse. I think I would recommend trying to find a version of this which is like either Blu-ray or something like that to get the full detail, because some of the compression elements in there, this may sound boring to anyone who doesn't care about it. You'd still enjoy it, but I just think that it's such a work of art that try and get the highest fidelity version of this. But what did you think to the trailer?
Well, the impression of the compression was pretty good. So the whole series is in that Vincent van Gogh art style. Yeah. So it's moving art.
Yeah, and it's not a series; it's an actual feature film. I'm just going to correct you there, even though it's on Netflix, but it's just the whole film.
Okay, so I'm more curious how they filmed that. Do you think they filmed it live action and then filtered over it, or did someone genuinely paint the whole fucking thing?
I did some research into this, and yes, they did film it. They filmed the whole film in using industry standard cameras and all that, and then they took each frame. I haven't seen the actual like making of, but this is what I've heard and read, and they basically got painters all around the world to paint each individual frame. That's how they did it. I think when I was watching it, they must have had some techniques where they didn't have to paint every single frame. Like if it was a still shot, I reckon they painted one frame and then only painted the moving stuff. But you know, it's still however they did it, it's still amazing. But yeah, it wasn't hand painted from imagination, not even in the in the slightest.
Because it makes you think of those stop motion animations like Wallace and Gromit. Do you know how long it actually took to make that, even though there are like a lot of people painting each single frame? Because obviously there'll be a shit ton of frames.
I don't know how long it took them to make this movie. Let's have a look, actually. Let's do the research for all of our valued listeners. Finding Vincent. Loving Vincent, sorry.
Loving Vincent. It sounded like he was from the rest country he was.
Production.
125 painters.
125 painters from over 20 countries.
5,000 applicants. 65,000 frames.
Since artists painted multiple frames from the same shot on a single surface, only 1,000 paintings survive. A couple of modifications were there.
It doesn't actually say how long.
It doesn't say how long it took to make. That's interesting. I'd like to find out. I imagine it probably took, if they had 125 painters.
Running time.
Yeah, I don't know how long exactly it took, but it must have taken them a fair while anyway. Let's be honest.
It takes years to make one Wallace and Gromit film, or a film like that with stop motion animation and those plastic models.
Yeah, I think that's what's amazing about these things, is that you cannot deny the level of effort and technique which goes into these things, especially stop motion, because animation takes so much effort, doesn't it? And you know, if it's for something worthwhile, and I truly believe that this movie is like a work of pure art, and if you want to watch something which is inspiring, tragic, but also uplifting at the same time, just watch this. It will mesmerize you. Yes, talking about mesmerizing, this wasn't my suggestion, but we got Splendor on here. I'm in a band called the DandyLions, as you know, because you're listening to this, but on the DandyChat. But we recently played Splendor, where we played on the main stage supporting Paloma Faith, Mark Almond, the Charlatans, and Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and we also supported Nina Smith and Adi Suleiman. It was a fantastic, and Bjorn again as well, the ABBA tribute band. It was a brilliant show. And I think we did pretty well. What do you reckon, Ross?
Daryl did so well that he was famous for 2 bands.
Yes. Oh, thanks for reminding me. Yeah. By the way, I thought it's really nice to play in front of so many people. It's the biggest gig we've ever done. Absolutely, we played in front of 20,000 people. But it was really cool. And then when I was hanging out backstage, someone ran up to me, was like, "Oh, I loved your performance." It was fantastic. And I was like, oh, brilliant. That's great. It didn't really occur to me that, I wasn't wearing my mask. So I was like, how did they recognize it was me? But I've got long blonde hair. Anyways, they were just like, all right, I don't know if you could see me at the side of the stage, but I was rocking out to your music. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And then she said, yeah, I'm a massive fan of the Charlatans, so thank you for playing. And I was like, oh, I realised that she thought I was the geezer. Was it Tim
Burgess.
Tim Burgess from the Charlatans, and I was like, oh, once I realised that was going on, I was like, what do I do? I just went along with it. I was just like, well, thank you very much. Thanks for enjoying our set. It was really cool. And then she was like, can I take a photo with you, Tim? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I took a selfie with this lass. And of course, if you know what I look like and you know what Tim Burgess looks like, we don't look the same. We really don't. So I apologise, Alexandra. Like, if you've got that picture on your phone and you've shown it to your friends and you said, look at Tim Burgess, and it's like, no, that's just some random guy. Like, it wasn't Tim Burgess, it was the lead singer from the DandyLions. So yeah, it was great.
I genuinely wish I knew who this person was, so I could have them on Facebook and just watch the post go up, and they're like, look, everybody, I got a selfie with Tim Burgess from the Charlatans. And it was, that's not fucking Tim Burgess. And she's fucking leaving the fucking festival thinking this is the fucking best day of my life. A day later, she's like, fucking bastard. Why didn't you fucking tell me? I'm like a fucking twat online.
You know what? I try and be honest as honest as possible, but she made the mistake that of mistaking me for someone who I wasn't. And what can I say? If you get your facts right. I didn't go up to Paloma Faith saying, hey Adele, I really loved your performance, like, on your last tour. Can I get your CD signed, Adele? And Paloma's like, I'm not Adele, I'm Paloma. But they don't look the same, do they?
But the thing is, she had no excuse for not knowing who the guy looked like. Even if she was far away from the stage, there was two big fucking screens.
Yeah, it wasn't as if she could definitely know what this person looked like. I think she just saw guy with blonde hair walking around backstage, obviously wanted to get some autographs or some kind of thing. And you know what, fair play, I will be Tim Burgess for you. Maybe I should like set up a lookalike kind of thing.
Do you think she went on Twitter and tweeted him and tagged him, thanks for the selfie, Tim Burgess?
And it's like, from @Tim Burgess, that's not Tim Burgess.
That would be the most funny thing. I've fucking seen it all, yeah.
Well, we never actually got to see that, unfortunately. So I'm going to wrap up this podcast now. I'm going to wrap up the DandyChat. Like by just saying thank you for listening. If you've got any comments or suggestions or for improvements, let us know.
Or any topics, if you wanted to talk about anything during the podcast, just let us know as well.
Yeah, we will happily talk about any topic. We'll do some research on something just to talk about it. If you've got anything interesting, if you think, oh, I think these guys will really like to watch it, then let us know, and we'll have a chat about it and see. You'll get our opinions on it. I've really enjoyed this. This has been really good fun. So yeah, just leave any criticism or feedback. Send it to us, and we'll
treat it as love, no matter what you send.
Exactly, man. So, this is Fortune Boy and
Ross Fielding, also known as Serry.
We're good, yeah. Fortune Boy and Serry is signing off. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great evening, and we'll speak to you next week. Bye bye.
Tatty bye, peoples.